Let's discuss these latest developments with Marwan Bishara, our senior political analyst, is joining us live from Paris. Marwan, good to have you with us on the News Hour. So Qatar's Prime Minister due to join the talks in Sharm el-Sheikh on Wednesday. What is your sense of how they're going? Are things moving in the right direction?
It seems like it on the question of the exchange of captives and prisoners. I'm not sure if it's going well on the other issues that Hamas insists on, including the redeployment of Israeli troops and guarantees about how to get from point 1 to point 2 to point 3, including Israeli withdrawal from Gaza and ending the war. I think these questions remain contentious, but the very early phase seems to be going okay.
President Trump has expressed optimism and mentioned security guarantees for Gaza without clarifying what that means exactly. What kind of guarantees do you think could realistically be offered now, and who would enforce those guarantees?
If you don't mind, Folly, because we've been repeating the same statements throughout the evening, and I think not just our viewers, I think American viewers, American kids are listening to Trump saying this conflict depends on how you count 3,000 years ago or 500 years ago. What is he talking about? What is he talking about? What 3 years ago? 3,000 years ago? What happened 3,000 years ago? I don't understand. What happened 500 years ago? There was an Ottoman Empire for 400 years. We know where things started. It started with the British Empire 100 years ago with a promise to the Jews of a homeland. It started with the Zionist movements and the colonialism in Palestine, picked up by America during the Cold War. We know what happened. We know that this is a colonial conflict. You can't just say it started 3,000 years ago. There was nothing 3,000 years ago to start what is happening today. And then he says all the countries in the world support the plan. What all countries of the world support the plan? Which ones? What we know is that most countries of the world support a Palestinian state, with Palestinian leaders leading the Palestinian states. And it's only America and few other countries who don't support it or recognize a Palestinian state. That's what we know. So when he talks about guarantees, after saying such farcical things, one wonders if he's actually paying attention at all to what is happening. What does he mean we are very strong, we can guarantee everything? To whom? For whom? How? What will he guarantee? Will he guarantee that there will be a Palestinian state at the end of this process? Of course not. Is he going to guarantee the de-radicalization of the Israeli society and the end of this process? Of course not. Is he going to guarantee actually Israel withdrawal from the West Bank and Gaza? So he says things because he wants to get that first phase of the plan going, which truly most people, most governments around the world support, the end of the war. That's what the Palestinians have been asking for since the very, very beginning. So it really goes back to the question. It's a very simple question. I'm not going to answer it. I don't drive. Would you buy a used car from President Trump? I think that's the question.
If Trump's promises of guarantees are not credible, then who? Could Egypt or Qatar, Marwan, provide alternative or parallel guarantees that Palestinians might find more credible? I mean, if the first stage succeeds, and this is what many are hoping for, that the next stages will also get to them, who guarantees those stages?
Those who guarantee any such agreement on a long term would be agreements, meaning signed agreements, meaning agreements that are signed with witnesses with leverage. So Qatar, Egypt could be there in order to affect the process. And they are doing that. And this is good news, right? That at least it's not totally slanted towards Netanyahu and Trump. But at the end of the day, the real guarantee with those who have leverage with Israel, which including some of its partners in the region, and certainly the United States, but also Europe and others, right? If they get into the process, they will be able to guarantee if there are signed agreements. But if you talk about somewhere down the road, we will be discussing a pathway to a potential state that is an ambition, not even a basic right. So the problem with the plan is that it is so ambiguous that each and every one point of the 20 points needs an agreement, signed agreement, with people who would say, we guarantee this. They could be, again, regional powers, they could be global powers, but there has to be a collective effort in order for the United States not to get away with, once again, as it did in 1991, 1993, 1999, 2000, 2006, and so on and so forth, produce its own arguments, produce its own justification for why it continues to support Israel, while Israel violates the agreements.
Marwan, good to get your analysis as always. Thank you very much for joining us on the News Hour.
Don't miss out. Get the full picture. Subscribe to Al Jazeera for reliable news and expert insights. Like, share, stay ahead.